Best ball is on fire. Tonight, we review one of the Pros vs. Joe's FFPC drafts. ADP be damned. Welcome into Club Fantasy FFL. Welcome to Masterclass, one of the best ball shows here on Club Fantasy and the Women of Fantasy YouTube channels. We've been in class for a few months now. Stacy, it's time to review this draft you just did on Sunday night. Pros vs. Joe's. I believe it was League One, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, the Seltzer division.
Seltzer division. That's give me a rum. Give me rum. The hell with the seltzer. And Professor Stacy Perez at Stacy_Perez 83 over there on Twitter. And as always, you can find me at FantasyJ77 on Twitter. Stacy, how are you tonight? Tell us about the draft as well.
Oh my gosh, Gator, I'm so glad to be back. Really good, draft. I think this past Sunday with Pros vs. Joe's. This is a tournament that, for all the years that I've been playing high stakes fantasy football, has been on my bucket list to get an invite to. And this year I finally got it. It is an invite-only tournament. Like I said, Pros vs. Joe's, FFPC. So you're looking at 7 different 12-team divisions. You're looking at 6 pros and 6 Joes, and they're going to alternate throughout the draft board. So 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be a pro Joe, pro Joe, pro Joe kind of setup. So, they've got the pros right from the industry, folks that, have done a lot of these before, that get asked to participate in this tournament. But then you have these Joes, and do not let that name Joe fool you at all. Absolutely not. Because these Joes get invited, the criteria to be invited is that you're going to a lottery. And the way that you get into the lottery is that you have signed up for the FFPC main event teams. And their main event is online, but they also do a live event in Vegas. This is a $1 million grand prize, $2,000 buy-in per team, okay? And I'm going to tell you what, these guys that are on here, they don't just have one team, right? They have like multiple teams. So, like I said, don't let that name Joe's fool you. These guys are absolute sharks. And what I heard from Darren Armani, Fantasy Mojo, which we've talked about before on the show, is that it has been since 2017 was the last time that a pro actually won this tournament.
Yeah, that's what I heard that as well. It's 7 straight years a Joe has won the tournament.
Exactly.
So you pros that are in this tournament, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And it's funny with our draft, and I know there's been there's one other draft that went last night. There's another draft going tonight. And then there's 6 that are going to be live streamed. There's one slow draft. Exactly, Vince. Extended Shark Week. What's up, guys? See, and everybody in the chat. But it was fun in my draft to kind of see the difference in the way that the pros versus the Joes were drafting. Like if you take a look at all the pros, we're all over here going either like anchor, running back, or 0 RB. And a lot of the Joes, actually there's 3 of them. If you once you start looking at the draft that we're going to put up a little bit later, that went really RB heavy right off the board. So it was really interesting to see the different ways that both sides were drafting.
Well, Stacey, you were drafting from the 8th spot in this particular draft here. And so, like you said, there were 6 Joes, 6 pros. So the pros were basically all in the even spots here. So just real quick, if you don't mind, who were the other 5 pros that were in your draft? I know I know there was a couple heavy hitters in this draft.
For sure, guys. We had Shop was drafting out of the 2 spot. We had Pete Overzet from Ship Chasing in the 4, Theo Greminger, player profiler, in 6. I was in 8. The 10 was Sigmund Bloom. You guys know him, and then 12 was Todd Burrows. So quite the room here, especially for me being the new pro on the block.
Yeah.
Not an easy draft. None of these are easy at all. But the minute that I got my league assignment, I saw it and I thought, oh my gosh. I am in trouble with these guys. I'm in trouble. Yeah.
That's when the thought process. Okay, my strategy is I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't have a strategy. It's one or the other, right?
what? I did try to have a little bit of a strategy because I thought, okay, I'm in the 8th spot. I don't really love the 8th. Like, who's gonna fall to me? Like, what are my options at this point, that are gonna be there? And one thing that's a noted difference in the FFPC drafts versus like the underdogs that we do is that your guys like Bijan, Bree, they're gonna get bumped up, right? As opposed to an underdog draft where they're probably going to go towards like an 8th spot, and maybe I would have a chance at a Bijan or a Brees Hall. Like here, that probably wasn't going to happen. I felt like it was probably a little early for me to go tight end in the first round. So I was really happy when Amon fell to me because of
Yeah.
Bijan and Brees going at 3 and 5 there respectively. So when I had the opportunity, I see Justin Jefferson come off the board, and I was like, yes, give me the sun god all day long, smash that. And then I kind of put into play, seeing the rest of them come off the board in the first round. I thought, all right, I really kind of wanted to try to make a bully tight end build work. And so that was kind of my thought process and my plan for how I was going to attack the next couple rounds of this draft.
So here you see the first 4 rounds of this particular draft. I'll run through it real quick for the
Mhm.
people that are just listening. We had CMC go off at the 1-1, CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson, Tyreek Hill, Brees Hall, Jameer Chase, Justin Jefferson. I'm sorry, Jamar Chase. Jameer's later. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta for the first round. At the 1-2 turn there, we had Trey McBride, Devon Achane, Travis Kelce, Puka Nacua, Dalton Kincaid, Jonathan Taylor, Marvin Harrison Jr., Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Saquon Barkley, Drake London, Chris Olave to end the second round. Third round starts with Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Travis Etienne, Nico Collins, Kyron Williams, Kyle Pitts, Isaiah Pacheco,
Mhm.
Evan Ingram, Debo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Malik Neighbors. Now, I'll stop right there for a quick second, Stacy, because I do want you to talk about these first 3 picks of yours, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dalton Kincaid, and Evan Ingram. But more importantly, I want to look at these 2 Joes that took Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne for his first 3 picks in the 3 spot, and then Brees Hall, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams at the 5 spot. These 2 just went heavy RB to right out the gates. And then you only had 2 people do the exact same thing that we normally do, and that's run wide receivers. At
Yeah.
the, that's the 2, and they believe it's going to be the 9
Yeah.
that went 3 straight wide receivers. But highlight those guys, and then talk about your first 3 picks here with Amon-Ra, Dalton Kincaid, and Evan Ingram.
Yeah, so, Team 3 and Team 5, both Joes, and they started off absolutely heavy running back there with those. I mean, really, and once you get into round 4, you're going to see the Team 3 also took another running back there with Josh Jacobs. So you're talking about 7 of the top running backs just between those 2 teams, right? So what they did there is obviously push that value at wide receiver, so, more of us could get a little bit more of that further down the draft, which was actually nice for me since I went bully tight end right off the board. I like what they did there, and especially Team 3. I know they went on the live stream, kind of explained what they were, planning on doing there. And I think he actually said, that wasn't necessarily his plan going into it, but he just didn't feel like he could pass up that value. And especially when you're looking at Saquon Barkley there at the 2 in the second round, going all the way back up to Team 3. I mean, that's incredible value there. And then you turn around and you get Travis Etienne. And then Team 5 to go back to back with Brees Hall, Derrick Henry, and then Kyron Williams as well. Now, I mean, this is a roster where you're only going to start 2 running backs, but you are going to have 2 flex spots as well. So, theoretically, he could start all 3 of these guys, and they'd be absolute monsters.
Yeah, I think my concern right off the bat, just looking at the way it built out, Bijan Robinson, Travis Etienne, they're in the 3 spot, both have the exact same bye week. If I'm not mistaken, they're in week 12.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Maybe that's a reason he had to get Josh Jacobs to cover for that one bye week. But you got to remember, again, this is a standalone, 12 team league. It's not a tournament style. But so that's again why I said at the very beginning, ADP be damned, because go get your guy.
Absolutely. Yeah, go get your guy. And that kind of leads me into like, why did I take Dalton Kincaid? That you could say that that's early. Where he is going in FFPC drafts right now, this is not that egregious. He usually goes, and you can look at the Fantasy Mojo stats to see where he's going, but it's round 2, and it's a little bit closer to in between where I've got him in 8 and where Mark Andrews is going, which oversets team at 4. That's kind of where he is. So really just a couple spots too early. And let me be honest, he wasn't coming back to me at all. I would have preferred to start off that bully tight end build with somebody like a McBride or a Kelsey. I really did not have any, plans to get Laporta because I just knew he was not coming back to me at all. So I would have liked to have started with that and then maybe gotten Kincaid as my second. That didn't happen, but I'm fine with Kincaid there. I think at that point, you're thinking to yourself, look, am I taking the gamble that he is going to outscore in this tight end premium format? Is he going to outscore those guys that went around him? Is he going to outscore Marvin Harrison, Drake London, Chris Olave, all those guys that are in that round that went after him at that position? And you're taking the gamble that he is going to do that he could possibly do that. I feel like he definitely does that with Olave, potentially Drake, who knows? Marvin Harrison, by all accounts, should be absolutely amazing. But you never know. He's a rookie still. So we don't really have a basis there. So do I think that Kincaid could either outscore them or be pretty damn close? Yeah, I do. And I feel great about that pick there.
Yeah, I love your build so far through the first 3 rounds there, as we've talked about. At this point, I was showing 4 rounds on the screen here, but at this point in the 3rd round, only 2 teams have gone, basically bully tight end here. And when I say bully tight end, you're talking about 2 elite tight ends in the first 3 rounds, which is what you and Team 12 did here with them getting Sam Laporta, Trey McBride. I did hear during the podcast, though, and I thought this was quite interesting. The guy that came in second place last year also chose from the 12 spot and started with back-to-back tight ends at the 1-2 turn. So I thought that was interesting. It sets you apart from the rest of the other 12 teams when you can get these 2 elite tight ends. And like you said, it is the tight end premium, but you can also use them in your flex spot as well. And when you got a Sam Laporta, a Trey McBride, especially, you can start them for 17 weeks. You're going to be able to start them together for 15 of them outside of their bye weeks.
Exactly. And with mine, if you notice too, Kincaid and Ingram do have that week 12 bye. Gosh, that week 12 and that week 14 are just absolute killers in fantasy. But, I've got somebody later on that we'll get to kind of fill in, and that's going to be okay. But, if you're looking at my top 4 guys, right, I can start those guys every single week, except obviously for their buys. So,
well, you'll be able to start them every week except for week 5.
Yeah, and week 12.
Week 12. Which I don't know how much that matters in a standalone league like this. I don't think it matters as much.
I don't think so.
In a big tournament. It would definitely give you reason for pause to start off your first 4 picks and completely just have two picks, 2 of those 4 picks on one bye week, two of the other 2 picks on another bye week. So round 4 ended like this: Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs, Stephon Diggs, Jake Ferguson, Josh Allen, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Michael Pittman Jr., George Kittle, Mike Evans, and then DJ Moore to finish the 4th round. Stacy, is there anybody in this round here that you wanted to speak about? I do want to ask you a quick question. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I did that wrong, didn't I? It went the other way around. I'm sorry. It was DJ Moore, Mike Evans, George Kittle, Michael Pittman, Devontae Smith, DK Metcalf, Josh Allen, Jake Ferguson, Stephon Diggs, Josh Jacobs, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. That's the order for the 4th round. My fault. I had a question for you on this, and I was like, wait, this question doesn't matter because it's wrong. You chose Devontae Smith there with your 4th round pick.
Yeah.
What was the thought process when you're sitting there with DK is still on the board, who is the wide receiver 1 out there in Seattle? You're taking the wide receiver 2 in Philly. I know I get the Philly offense, powerful offense, but there's so many mouths to feed. You're taking the wide receiver 2. DK Metcalf's still going to be a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, so at first glance, you probably, and that's exactly right, Gator. You're thinking like, okay, wait a second, why are we taking a 2 in front of a 1, potential 1, and Stephon Diggs a little bit further down? Those 2 options are still on the board. Why wasn't I targeting one of those guys? So the way I look at it, I'm really just betting on that offense, not necessarily the player here. I like Diggs. Obviously, I have a ton of Diggs. Love DK Metcalf as well. But with this build, it was really important for me to get somebody that I knew had guaranteed production. And when you're looking at Seattle, right, you've got, not only do you have DK Metcalf there, you have Tyler Lockett, you also have JSN, who I feel like is going to have a bit bigger role this year than he had last year, a little bit more integrated in that offense, coming off that rookie season. I see him having a bigger slice of those targets. They've got to go somewhere. And then you're looking at Stephon Diggs in Houston. We've got the similar situation there with Nico Collins and Tank Dell as well, although I am on record by saying I don't really think that either one of their, targets goes towards Stephon. I think it's probably coming from somewhere else. But the fact is that, you've got one guy who's in a brand new offense. You've got another guy who's got a rookie who had, or a sophomore who coming off a good rookie season, potentially going to have more of a role in that offense. And then you have Devonta Smith, who has an absolutely cemented role in his offense. You know what his production is going to be. And I just felt more comfortable taking him there at that spot as opposed to those two players for this build. Uh-oh. It looks like we may have lost Gator a little bit.
No, I'm right here. I was just thinking to myself. I was talking to myself out loud. I had myself on mute while you were talking, and I did the fatal, leave yourself on mute, talk to the screen, and nobody's listening. So it's fine. It just
I can't see you. So that's because it didn't look like you. I was like, oh my God, did Gator
he just left. He just left me.
He just left. He was like, I can't believe she took Smith over DK Metcalf. I am out of here.
No, and that's the problem is I was sitting there saying to myself because nobody could hear me. I love your reasoning behind that. I still would probably lean DK, but I get it 100% the thought process and why you did what you did there. So I cannot argue that at all. The other thing I wanted to bring up in this fourth round, 3 quarterbacks come off the board. Talk to me.
Yeah, so those 3 quarterbacks that came off the board, you've got Allen there going to team 6. You've got Jalen Hurts followed up by Patrick Mahomes. I was really kind of hoping that Hurts would come back, and I thought it was probably a long shot. But if he did, I was absolutely going to grab him to pair with Smith and make that stack. But, I'm not really surprised that those 3 kind of went in that spot. That's pretty much following that ADP with Mojo. And it's hard in this tournament, right? Because you don't really have this, the first draft of this tournament. So ADP is kind of what we make it, but if you're looking at, the different tournaments, different best ball tournaments on the FFPC, that's, you kind of correlate that ADP with that, with those stats.
Yeah, Joe likes your explanation on Devonta Smith. And he said he would have done that as well. The only argument I have here would be where Team 3 was taking the 4th running back, and I think I said this to you a little bit ago. Getting Josh Jacobs right there. I think in that instance, I might have taken Jalen Hurts in that position and let Josh Jacobs come back to me because I think that would have happened.
I think you would have too. Yeah, because if you take a look, the next, if you're going down to team 5 when we get to it, it's like a sea of yellow until it gets to team 6 where a running back finally goes. So there were so many options that he could have gone there for his first receiver. Higgins is still there, Tank Dell, Hollywood Brown, who he eventually does take. Zay Flowers, you've got Amari Cooper. Those are all the receivers that went in round 5 that I feel like probably could have been a little bit better picks there. But, Josh Jacobs is no slouch. So, probably not what I would have done, but also, I guess we'll see how that works out because he did end up getting Hollywood Brown the next round. So,
yeah, the one thing that I will point out, you had 12 running backs go in the first 4 rounds, and then you didn't have you only had 4 go in this 5th round, and the 5th round started with T. Higgins, Tank Dell, Hollywood Brown, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, James Cook, Amari Cooper, Joe Mixon, Rashad White, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, Aaron Jones. And then to start the 6th round, it was Ramondre Stevenson, Brock Bowers, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, CJ Stroud, David Njoku, Keenan Allen, Kenneth Walker, Calvin Ridley, Dallas Goedert, and then Alvin Kamara for the ending of the 6th round. Talk to me about this 5th and 6th round. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, so 5th round, is pretty early for me to go running back here. But the fact that Joe Mixon fell for me at this point, I really wanted a part of that, Houston offense, especially since I, had missed out on those receivers. So it made sense for me to go ahead and grab Mixon. to fit in with this team. I think he's going to have a great role in that offense. He's going to have a pretty good year. I don't care that Cam Akers has signed there. That does nothing for me with my stance on Mixon. So I like it there. I think their run game is going to be much, much more efficient than it was last season. So to grab him in the 5th, I think it just made sense for me. And especially when you look at, what we just talked about, so many of the really good elite, running backs that were taken earlier, it kind of pushed everybody up just a little bit. You might want to, and I know I felt like I needed to go ahead and do that, just grab, Mixon at that point, get my first running back off the board. In this format, you only have to start 2. So that's why I just felt it makes sense for me in round 5 to go ahead and grab Mixon.
Yeah, I love getting Mixon right there.
And I heard he went in the 4th in the draft that went last night. So that makes me feel pretty good about that value.
Okay. Yeah, that was one thing. I looking through this draft to start when I first started looking at it as a whole, there was a lot of value that seemed to fall. And I know that has to do a little bit with the tight end premium, a little bit to do with it being FFPC, and a lot of these players that are playing in these leagues are spending a lot more dollar per league. So not saying that they're that much sharper, but they're sharp.
Yeah.
Right. So that it makes a damn difference.
Totally. It absolutely does. And when you're drafting with people that are willing to spend, $2,000 on a draft and multiple drafts like that, most of those guys know what they're doing. So, it's not their first rodeo with these. So really sharp drafters. There's actually 2 of the Joes that I am so glad that did not end up in my division. That I know and have drafted against personally, that are just, man, I mean, such challenging drafters to be in a room with. So, like I said, glad they ended up somewhere else and not in this round.
Yeah. Round 8 goes Rashid Rice, James Conner, Ladd McConkey, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Deontay Johnson, Pat Fryermuth, DeAndre Hopkins, Zamir White, David Montgomery, JSN, Kyler Murray. Round 8 starts with Jalen Warren, Xavier Worthy, Raheem Mostert, Jordan Love, Roma Dunze, Joe Burrow, DeAndre Swift, Jordan Addison, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Jonathan Brooks, and then Najee Harris. Almost a full round behind his running back mate there, Jalen Warren. They bookend the 8th round. Let's talk about the 7th and 8th round here. Talk to me.
Yeah, so that's the first time I've seen those 2 players bookend, a draft. They usually are going one right after the other. And if I could have gotten my hands on Jalen Warren, I probably would have done that. But because I can't stop with him. But this is the time when I saw it when I said, okay, look, I really needed to get more depth at wide receiver, right? Because I've already got my tight ends locked up. I've got my starting running back here. So this is what I'm saying to myself. Okay, I really need to get some depth at wide receiver before these tiers drop off, before the rest of the room, catches up to me, or we all are catching up, at this point and sucking up that wide receiver value that's there. So in this particular, I went Godwin, he's got 3 years of 1,000+ yards. I think that offense is going to be really good again under Baker. So love that. DeAndre Hopkins, he's still DeAndre Hopkins until he falls off a cliff. I'm going to trust him. And then I went ahead and I grabbed Roma Dunze, which I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about Roma Dunze because I didn't really have a chance to do so the other night, and just kind of make a few things clear about why I took Roma Dunze as my 5th wide receiver. So I do kind of buy into the narrative that he could potentially spend the majority of his year in a situation similar to how JSN did last year in Seattle, right? Where he's the 3rd guy on the list. He's the rookie, he's a dynamic player coming out of college, but, doesn't really have that kind of flash right out the gate, in the NFL. And I think that might be, what happens to Rome a little bit here. I personally think he's incredibly talented. Love this player. I'm getting him as my 5th wide receiver because I'm hoping that he flashes towards the end of the season, which is really kind of what I think is going to happen, unless there's something like a significant injury to a Keenan Allen, to a DJ Moore, and then he's, relied on a little bit more heavily in the earlier part of the season there with Caleb Williams. He's going to be a bye week fill-in unless something crazy like that happens. And I was, if you're wondering about like projections for him going into this year, he's doesn't at least according to Fantasy Pros, they've got him at 62 catches, 100 or 800 plus yards and 5.5 touchdowns, which I'll take any day from my wide receiver number 5.
Yeah, I just looking at the Chicago wide receiver room here, and when we talk about if that wide receiver, if that offense is going to be prolific like we think it's going to be, we can compare it somewhat to the Houston offense. And you're talking about 3 wide receivers that you're taking in like a 3-round period, an early 3-round period with Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell.
Yeah.
You're taking DJ Moore at 4-1. Then you get Keenan Allen at 6'8".
Yes.
And now you're getting the value on Roma Dunze there at the 8. What is that? 8, something like that. So I think it's great value. I am of the opinion as well with Roma Dunze that it's going to be a slow start.
Yeah.
But it could be a banger at the end, especially when you have a veteran like Keenan Allen come out and say he's a better rookie than I was in my rookie year.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen's rookie year was no slouch. He had 1,042 yards in his rookie year. I truly believe if Odunze can get somewhere in that 720 yard range, 4 to 5 touchdowns, you win right there in the 8th round.
Absolutely. And this isn't a player, just to make clear, I didn't draft this player to be in my starting, I didn't draft him as my first wide receiver, didn't draft him as my second wide receiver. So I know that there's folks out there that have questions about, this player in that offense. That's what I have to say about that. I'm taking him where I took him because I think that's a great value, and I think he's going to pay off at that value at the end of the season.
Yeah, Vince seems to be right there with the same page with us. Bears going to have almost 3 100 target guys this year. Caleb 3.
Yeah.
Gonna love it.
I love it.
Yeah, and this may be real close for targets. 120 for DJ, 100 for Keenan, 90-ish for Rome. That could very well be the numbers that hit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Joe, you're right. Akers would have been a great handcuff. I didn't know that news until after. I think it was the next day or something like that. I saw.
We drafted Sunday night. That news broke Monday morning, I believe it was, when Akers signed with Houston.
Yeah, so no way to know that. And this is a best ball, so I can't go pick anybody up off waivers. But yeah, so that's unfortunate, but that's okay. I really don't think that it's gonna do much to his value there. I don't think even had I known that I would have done anything differently with that pick for Mixon.
When you're looking at these rounds 5 through 8 here, anybody that you want to stick out that sticks out to you at all outside of your team?
Sorry, I was just moving some windows around over here. I really like the group right here that's got it's team 3, 4, and 5. Where they've got McConkey, Reed, and Christian Watson. Those were some of my favorite receivers too that were all in my queue that I probably would have taken ahead of DeAndre Hopkins if they had fallen to me. But like we talked about, this is when I was saying, okay, I really need to build depth here because look at this first group of teams here in this section. Rashee Rice goes, and then like I just said, McConkey, Reed, Watson, Deontay Johnson, Jordan Addison goes after that. JSN goes after the pick after me. With Hopkins there. So, this is when you just really pound wide receiver here. So, I like what they all did. I think we were all kind of, thinking along the same lines. Because, a lot of these teams, team 3 is making up for not having receivers earlier, but, like the team 4, that's the ship chasers. They're going to have a ton of wide receivers. You've got, it's team 5, I think over here, who's got the 4 guys back to back to back right there. So I like what they were doing. I think we were all thinking kind of along the same, lines.
Yeah, the only pick, and I was looking at that as well. The only pick that I don't like there is Christian Watson. I think we're hyping him up way too high. Since 2022, 23 games played, 13 of those games, less than 40 receiving yards. 3 receptions or less in 15 of the 23. 3 receptions or less in 7 of the 9 games he played last year.
Yeah, it's not great, there with Christian Watson. I'm a Packer fan, obviously, so I'm really hoping that, all the rehab that he's doing on those hamstrings this offseason really pays off, and hopefully he doesn't have the same kind of issues he had last season. Because other than that, those injury issues, I do believe he's a really talented receiver and brings a lot to the table in that receiving room. So I just hope that he can stay on the field this year.
Yeah, I hope he can. I just
Well, that's the concern there too with Keenan Allen, right? So you've got Keenan Allen, Christian Watson, then you've got the worry of Jordan Addison with a potential suspension looming. And then it gives me a little questions too with Pickens there, with that offense and Russell, trying to get him the ball. So that does kind of worry me a little bit, those 4 picks. They're just some guys that I've got a little bit more concern than faith in, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take the gamble on the Keenan Allen, and think that there's a possibility he's going to get injured, or hopefully, if you got to sit there and cross your fingers, you got to go and secure something else, and not having somebody right behind it in a Christian Watson that we've seen for 2 years not be able to stay on the field.
Yeah, and those are your starters. So I just went back and looked. So that is team 5. They're all 4 of those guys right there. Those are Pickens starts his first receiver, because this is one of the teams that started off with the Hall Henry Williams pick. Then he went tight end with that. So those are all 4 of his starters. So that does give me a lot of concern, because he doesn't take another one until Marvin Mims down in the 15. So you gotta hope real hard that those hamstrings.
That's my point, though, Stacy. That's my point, though, is if you're gonna make that gamble on Keenan Allen, you can't make the gamble again in the very next round with Christian Watson.
Right.
You've got to go and secure a Deontay Johnson, a DeAndre Hopkins, a JSN, somebody that's going to be on the field.
Yeah, somebody that you don't have as many concerns about, because the worst thing that you can do, and obviously this isn't a redraft where you're having to set a lineup every week, but I feel like I want to get a player that I don't have to worry about, every week to week. Are they going to be injured? Who am I going to play? Or is he going to be worth starting this week? The best thing I can do for me when I'm drafting is get guys that give me peace of mind, that I'm not, constantly worried about, every week. And are they going to play? Or are they going to be on the field?
Facts. Big facts. All right, let's move over to round 9 through 12 here. TJ Hawkinson, Tony Pollard. I believe this is the right order, correct? I'm in the right order. TJ Hawkinson, Tony Pollard, Brandon Cooks, Zach Moss, Brock Purdy, Brian Thomas Jr., Tajay Spears, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary, Jamison Williams, Trey Benson, Caleb Williams to end the 9th round, starting the 10th round, Cortland Sutton, Curtis Samuel, Nick Chubb, quite early for a player that's not going to start the year. Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Rasheen Shaheed. Are y'all playing return yards in FFPC now? Chase Brown, Gus Edwards, Tua Tagovailoa, Keon Coleman, Javonte Williams, Josh Palmer to end the 10th round. Blake Corum, Tyler Lockett, Khalil Shakir, Cole Kmet, Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, Dalton Schultz, Marshawn Lloyd to Stacy Perez. I love that pick. Jaleel McLaughlin, Jerome Ford, Dontavion Wicks. Look at there. I didn't even trip over that name.
Nice.
Austin Eckler to end the 11th round. Zach Charbonnet, Luke Musgrave, Jonnu Smith, Tyler Conklin, Rico Dowell, Darnell Mooney, Ezekiel Elliott, Jalen Wright, Kendre Miller, Noah Fant, Jacoby Myers, and then Matthew Stafford to end the 12th round. Again, that's 9th round through the 12th round. Stacy, you took Brian Robinson here in the 9th round. He is your second running back on this team. I like the pick.
Yeah, I do too. I like Brian. This is kind of, anybody that's watched, me do any drafts this year knows that this is kind of my sweet spot for running back, right? Like I've gotten all my, top receivers, and now I'm starting to shore up my depth at running back. And so, going Robinson here, followed up with Marshawn Lloyd and Rico Dowdle. I really liked, I was kind of targeting Zach Charbonnet there before Dowdle, but he obviously went before me. But I like all three of these guys. Marshawn Lloyd, I'm sure everybody's lined up in Green Bay to donate their hip to you. Hopefully somebody can find a way to make that happen. But that news obviously coming out, right after the draft. So hopefully it's July though, folks. So hopefully he's ready for the season to start. But a really big fan of all three of these players. These are picks that I routinely take. Again, anybody who's watched me draft knows that I probably have the most exposure to Rico Dowdle than anybody other than, I don't know, outside of Dallas.
I mean, myself, maybe.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned earlier. We were talking about this before, the show. What you mentioned about Rico and Zeke in there and how that's going to look. And I think you're absolutely right, saying, Zeke is going to be getting those goal line touches, he's going to be getting in the end zone and Rico's going to do all the work to get him there.
Yeah, I truly think that. I think Rico's going to be the guy that's on the field between the 20s.
Yep.
And then it's going to be, Zeke inside the 20.
Yeah.
And again, the reason I brought that up was I wanted to make sure that this tournament is a PPR tournament, which, in turn is going to get you a couple extra points for Rico Dowdle because of the touchdowns that Zeke's going to get here. And this is quite honestly, Zeke goes 2 picks after Rico Dowdle. I don't think I've seen him that close in any draft.
This is really close, and it makes me wonder, and I'll have to ask Theo about this because Theo Grimminger took Zeke, if he was targeting Rico also and pivoted to Zeke because Rico was gone, or if Zeke is somebody that he's super duper high on as well. So that'd be a fun question to ask him one day.
Yeah, I think the answer to that, and I can't speak for Theo, but Zeke is his 4th running back.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the value at the 4th running back there. If Zeke gets 3 touchdowns in 1 week, there's
right there.
That's a perfect week for him, and he get behind Chase Brown? He's got James Cook, DeAndre Swift, and then Chase Brown there, and then Zeke Elliott is his 4th running back. So I think that would probably be his answer. He's like, I don't care which one it is. I'm getting one of them.
Exactly. Get some of that. Dallas run game for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. So you got Brian Robinson, Jared Goff, Marshawn Lloyd, who I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about Rico Dowdle. Let's look at these other teams here. I'm trying to figure out which one of these teams. There's 2 of them. Look, I'm looking at the big board here. There's none of them. Everybody has a quarterback at this point, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of pushing it too. Like when I grabbed a Goff here, I need to look at the board and see I might have been one of the last ones without a quarterback.
Yeah,
I think I was one of the last ones without a quarterback there.
Yeah, you were the last one without a quarterback. In fact, at that point when you took Goff, 1, 2, 3,
4. Is that 5? 4 or 5?
3 teams already had 2.
Yeah.
At that point. So I don't hate Jared Goff there being your QB1, especially being able to pair him up with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who you took in the first
time. Plan. Yeah.
100% there. Anybody else in this grouping 9 through 12 that we need to highlight?
Well, I just want to talk about Jared Goff real quick. When Trevor Lawrence went right before me, I was really holding my breath there at the last couple of picks, thinking like, okay, somebody's going to do it. I saw Caleb Williams go as Team 12 second quarterback, and I thought, oh my gosh, I might miss out here. And I had pushed it so long that I was getting really kind of nervous that I wasn't going to get Goff, and then my whole plan was just going to be ruined. So my quarterback situation is probably as strong as I would have liked. Finishing out the entire draft, and we'll get to my second quarterback a little bit later. He's in round 14. But I am glad that I got Goff there, especially to pair him with St. Brown and then pair him with one of my later picks as well. In that offense, I just am really, really high on the Lions offense. I think as is everybody, as you should be, right? But grabbing I want to look at some of the rest of the, guys that were some of the picks in rounds 9 through 12. Herbert going in, what is that? Round 11, there with Cousins. I think that's great value for them. And I probably would have taken either one of those guys ahead of Tua, but obviously Tua went with Tyreek Hill there in that stack, so that made sense on that team. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of the round of quarterbacks. If you look at everybody's team here, see how many have gone off the board.
Yeah, everybody was going to go ahead and is rounding out their quarterback room here. I do believe. Let's take a quick look at rounds 13 through 16. Yeah. We had the. I don't think this is one of the tight end runs of this. There was multiple tight end runs in this draft here. We just had one in round 12. Got another one, a quick one here in round 13 with Hunter Henry, Isaiah Likely, Chigokwonkwo, Ty Chandler, Ray Davis, Ben Sinnott, Jahan Dotson, K. Dotton, Romeo Dobbs, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Downs, Gabe Davis for the 13th round. 14th round goes Wan'Dale Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Kamani Vidal, Jawan Johnson, Baker Mayfield, Jermaine Burton, Adonai Mitchell, Mike Gesicki, Jerry Jeudy, Will Levis, Geno Smith, Chuba Hubbard.
Yes.
13 and 14 here. We had what, six? Looks like six. Yeah, seven tight ends go off the board here. These mid-level tight ends, again, tight end premium. So, and it is best ball. So you don't have to set a lineup or anything. But
exactly
seven tight ends here in this late 13 round 14. You taking K. Dotton, but you were able to pair him with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that pairing and what your thought process was there. You also paired Baker Mayfield with Chris Godwin from earlier.
Yeah. So if you take a look other than Devonta Smith with my receiving core, St. Brown, Godwin, Hopkins, Adunze, those are all guys that if I was going after, and I planned on kind of pushing quarterback as long as I could, we're going to have good options to go in these later rounds. So, I had the option of Baker, Will Levis, Caleb Williams, to go. I really had wanted Goff to go with St. Brown. So I knew that was going to be something I was targeting. So my second QB, and then when I was looking at, my tight ends both have the same week. Who's a tight end or bye week? Who's a tight end that I can go after a little bit later that I feel comfortable with in a tight end premium, who I feel is going to give me a great chance at upside to kind of go in and get those extra tight end premium points. And K. Dotton is somebody who's literally on the field, 100% of the snaps, pretty much.
97%.
Yeah. Okay. 97% of the snaps. I said, all right, if I can go get K. Dotton and then I can get Baker, that's going to be really nice with Chris Godwin there. And so that's really who I was targeting. So that first round that we're looking at right here with the Henry, Likely Okonkwo Senate, group, I was holding my breath. I really was this whole time because I thought Otton could go at any point here. And I made the decision, in that round that I was taking Otton ahead of Baker. And I thought, if for some reason Baker goes after that, I'll pivot. I'll have to grab somebody else. There were still, I felt better options at quarterback than there were at tight end. And I absolutely had to get one more tight end. With tight end premium, for me personally, I think when you're getting towards the end of these drafts, a tight end premium with Jawan Johnson, with a Mike Gesicki, potentially, even a Jelani Woods type player, they're probably going to score about the same amount of points as your regular flex player would, if you've got a receiver or something like that. I don't know that tight end premium really helps them all that much. So that's why I was specifically looking for Otton as somebody who could this year, take that, make that tight end premium a little bit worth it with one of those later round tight ends.
Yeah, somebody that can absolutely spike in a week or two for you, and definitely somebody they can jump into the tight end position in that week 12 spot there when Kincaid and Ingram are taking a relaxation from the grind of the first 11 weeks.
Exactly.
Round 15 starts Demario Douglas, Jelani Woods, Daniel Jones, Tyler Algier, Marvin Mims, Stacy's guy from last year,
right.
Elijah Mitchell, Deshaun Watson, Khalil Herbert, Stacy's guy from this year, Tyrone Tracy, Mike Williams, Bucky Irvin, Troy Franklin. And then round 16 goes Jalen Polk, Bryce Young, Demarcus Robinson, Bo Nix, Luke McCaffrey, Roshan Johnson, Xavier Legette, Jalen McMillan, Drake May, J.K. Dobbins, Braylon Allen, and Adam Thielen.
Yes.
So here you took your guy this year, Khalil Herbert, who you may have 100% exposure on him at this point, and Luke McCaffrey, who I really love this year, possibly the got a chance to be the wide receiver 2 there
He
in
does.
Washington. Thought process when you're going through these 2 picks here.
Yeah. So one of the things that makes this draft so difficult in this particular tournament, obviously you're drafting with so many different sharp players that, like we've said earlier, ADP just really kind of goes out the window. So you're getting sniped left and right. That's at least how I felt in these rounds right here. All my plans kind of went out the window where, I've got Baker, I've secured my second quarterback. Now I'm thinking, all right, do I want to go after a third? Who is my late stack that I want to pair? I'm looking at somebody like a Drake May to Mario Douglas. I'm looking at somebody like a Bo Nix, Marvin Mims, and those guys are all going and I'm getting sniped on all those guys right there. So now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do? And that's probably why I ended up taking Luke McCaffrey just a little bit early than where he is going. But like I said, those guys that I named, Demario Douglas, Marvin Mims, Bo Nix, Drake, the exception for Drake May, but Douglas had already gone, and so had Polk at that point. Kind of made it important for me to go ahead and grab a player that I really like, that I thought had tremendous upside at that point, even if he doesn't really, get stacked with anybody. Like I said, this is standalone tournament. This is not, one of our big, multi-entry tournaments with thousands and thousands of other players. So, stacking doesn't, I still think it makes sense, but it's not the end all be all at this point in a draft like this. And Khalil Herbert, yeah, I don't leave a draft without him apparently these days.
I love it. I really love it. I just kind of glancing over it to see. I know Jerry Jeudy there in the 14th round. Our very own Josh Hudson would hate that pick there. So I always try to bring Jerry Jeudy up just so that Josh has something to complain about. Something I say on every single program: Jerry Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy. I do that just for Josh. Demario Douglas there going to be the start of the 15th round there. I know that's somebody you target a good bit, like to get a hold of him. Is there anybody in the 16th round outside of, of course, Luke McCaffrey there that you were kind of targeting that maybe you didn't get, whether that was a Jalen Polk or even a Mike Williams or Troy Franklin? Anything there or no?
Yeah, so it actually also had I was like, if all else fails, I could get a Bryce Young, Adam Thielen, and try to make that work. And then lo and behold, he goes to team 11, Bryce Young does, and then getting, sniped on Knicks. So that was another, kind of late round stack that I was looking at to potentially kind of go as my third QB. So that was another option right there, but I definitely got like I said, in a room like this, that's what makes something like this so difficult, is that so many people are on the same players, because you're all really sharp drafters. This isn't like your first draft of the season. Everybody's been drafting all season. So
that's Vince. I'm okay with that. I just do it for Josh, just to give Josh something to yell at me about. It's fine. It is 100% fine. All right, round 17 through 20. This rounded out the draft here. Round 17 started with Derek Carr, Tank Bigsby, Quentin Johnson, Audric Estime, Roman Wilson, Michael Wilson, Dawson Knox, Deontay Foreman, DJ Chark, Justin Fields, Tucker Kraft, Javon Baker. And then in round 18, started off with Ricky Pearsall. Just found out that he now has a hamstring pull. That's not good.
no.
Going to be on the PUP list. Don't go crazy because he's on the PUP list, or any other players on the PUP list. Don't go to freak out, except that it's a hamstring, so it's probably going to linger. Russell Wilson, Kenneth Gainwell, Kobe Parkinson, Malachi Corley to Stacy Perez.
Absolutely.
CEH off the board. Rashad Bateman, Jalen Tolbert, Will Shipley, Zach Ertz, Kendrick Bourne, Hayden Hurst. To start round 19, we had Hayden Hurst started it, but round 19 is just another one of the what do you say about the bye weeks? The Armageddon of bye weeks.
Yeah.
Apocalypse. This is the tight end apocalypse right here.
Yeah.
Michael Mayer, Greg Dulcich, Daniel Bellinger, Jatavion Sanders, Delaney Hawker. I don't even know who that is.
I didn't know who that was either. I had to go look him up.
Yeah. Is he a player or is
he's a tight end. He's on somebody's depth chart.
All right. No, we don't know him because of Hill. That's why we don't know him.
Oh yeah. He's that.
Hill takes quarterbacks out and tight ends. He doesn't care. Samaj P. Ryan, Tyler Boyd, Khalif Raymond, Will Dissly, Damian Pierce, Lucas Kroll, Evan Hall to
Mhm.
end the 19th round. 20th round is Jared Wiley. Another one of those ones that I wouldn't know right off.
And I'm surprised Noah Gray didn't get taken before Wiley did, because I would have a feeling he's going to have more to do in that offense than Wiley. But if you got to go with another KC receiver,
wait. Didn't Wiley wasn't Wiley on the field last year a couple times
I think
with?
so.
I think he
Yeah.
was on the field playing more slot.
Yeah, I think
So
they
that's
definitely
interesting.
used him because that name. I mean, I do recall a few games like that.
Yep.
But
Then we had Jalen Hyatt, Odell Beckham Jr., Josh Reynolds, Dylan Lobb, Alexander Madison, J.J. McCarthy, Aiden O'Connell, K.J. Osborne, Zay Jones, Trey Sermon, Jawan Jennings was Mr. Irrelevant of this draft. Stacy, you took Deontay Foreman in the 17th round, Malachi Corley in the 18th round, Khalif Raymond in the 19th, and then ended your draft with Dylan Lobb. Talk to us about those 4 picks.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go ahead and grab, Deontay Foreman was my 6th, running back. At that point, I was looking and I was saying, okay, I only have 5. I definitely want to grab one more, potentially make it a 7. Like I said, we've always said running back is such a volatile position in the NFL. At some point, you're going to have guys that get on the field that we've never even heard of, that are going to be the waiver wire darlings. So you're just trying to really go down that depth chart and get guys that are just an injury away. And so that's, doing that in Cleveland there. With the potential, who knows what's going to happen with Nick Chubb. You've got Jerome Ford there. So really like Dante Foreman has always been a really great, come in and just, lit the waiver wires up on fire. Everybody's bidding all their money for him and, well worth it, for those couple weeks that he does get on the field, inevitably. Right. Took Malachi Corley. He's another darling of mine, rookies this year. Hopefully he has a better year than Marvin Mims did. But just really like that player, especially, with the relationship it seems that he's developing with Aaron Rodgers. Khalif Raymond was a grab there because I've got Jared Goff and I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. So let's say Jameson Williams maybe doesn't work out the way that we're hoping, or there's an injury somehow. Khalif Raymond is a guy who is on the field, is going to be getting targets. I got him in the 19th round. I think that's totally fine. You're looking for guys with upside who are going to be part of high volume offenses at this point in this draft. Last but not least, Dylan Lobb. And, he's just another one. I wasn't really impressed with Alexander Madison last year. I don't think really anybody was. So being there in Vegas behind, their players right now, I feel like Dylan Lobb's got a pretty decent chance, to get on the field, get some playing time. So that's kind of my here for my last few picks.
Yeah, I actually like those picks. I'm not an Alexander Madison guy either.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I think Dylan Lobb is like, and I know it's not August yet. We don't want to hear anything about injuries, but Dylan Lobb is one injury away from possibly being on the field a lot more.
Exactly.
Than Alexander Madison, who went the very next pick.
Yeah.
I like
Wilson pick. I'm sorry, Gator. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've got McCarthy going off the board here. He was another one that I had kind of thrown on the board as kind of a last minute dart throw too. And, it just kind of got to, you're there in the last round and, kind of trying to decide. It was really a toss up. I think I could have, taken another quarterback there. Jameis was somebody else's, name that I had put down as well. But, eventually, like I said, running back, guys are going to get hurt. So I thought it was just really important to kind of shore up the position there for me and go grab my 7th.
I like it. I like it. And yes, Alexander Madison.
Or if you're a Hamilton fan, it's Alexander Madison. That's how you have to say his name. No Hamilton fans out there.
I've never seen it, so I don't.
Oh, Gator! Somebody in the chat, please.
Yeah, I'm. Oh, yeah. It would not be hard to outdo me on any of that. So there is your FFPC Pros versus Joes. I believe again, League One, the Seltzer division.
Yes.
Interesting draft all around. Stacy, I really enjoyed yours. There was some interesting builds in this one here.
Yeah.
I think the to me to steal the weirdest one is Team 3: Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs to start.
Yeah.
You kind of pigeonholed yourself, at least in my opinion. I mean, I've not played in the FFPC main event. I don't roll that way, at least not yet. These guys do. That's scary to sit there and go, my wide receiver one is going to be Hollywood Brown or Calvin Ridley or Lad McConkey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up when it comes to the receivers, and I'll let you get on that in just a second, was Vince a minute ago when we were talking about the Christian Watson, Keenan Allen. He said, I'm fine with Christian Watson, Keenan Allen, or Rashid Weiss as my wide receiver 4, but no sooner. Well, I just want to break this down for you, Vince. Keenan Allen is his wide receiver 2. Christian Watson is his wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Why I brought it up and why I was scared where he was drafting them at. But that's, again, I don't play in the main event, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I know more than him because he spends a lot more money than I do.
Well, I mean, I think with those, right, you're taking the gamble that, those guys are going to be your starters, that they're on the field, they're healthy. And, when they are, those guys are forces to be reckoned with. So, when those specifically talk about those running backs.
He's not. Watson's not a force to be reckoned with. He's proven that.
Oh,
He's
no,
not.
I was talking about the running backs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. No. I mean, for me personally, the way I draft, of course, that's terrifying for me to pick like a Pickens, Allen, Watson, Addison. That's like my worst nightmare. But it's a build that is different, right? He's both of those teams have set themselves apart from everybody else in this draft. So there's always something to be said for that, for making yourself a little bit different than everybody else is built. So you never know. I mean, who knows? Who knows how the season's going to work out, how it's going to go. It's definitely different. I don't know that I would have done that, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. So
no, I'm not saying it's wrong. It makes my stomach curl to sit there and look at that. It was my first 4 picks, and now I'm faced with Hollywood Brown as my wide receiver 1.
Yeah, especially in that, that PPR format too, where those receptions are so important, to kind of gain an edge over everybody.
Absolutely. Make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit that subscribe, and comment on this video.
Yes, please.
Which draft you liked best out of these 12 drafters, the pros versus Joe's Seltzer division. We now have 7 shows 7 days a week, Stacy. Sundays we have Dynasty After Party at 11. Mondays, Mocking with the Stars at 10 p.m. Tuesdays, our show, Masterclass, right here, 8:30 p.m. Wednesday, no pun intended, the flagship show at 7 p.m. Thursday, Trade Blocked at 8 p.m., our trade show. Thursday, Mock Girl Summer, another mock draft show at 10 p.m. And then Friday, now at 8 p.m., Mock It Like It's Hot. And then Saturday, our Summer School, the other best ball show that we have here with Club Fantasy at 9 a.m. Don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe for us. Club Fantasy FFL YouTube is on the way to 2,000 subs. Let's go. We can only get there with your help. Stacy, let the viewers and the listeners know where they can find you and what you're working on.
So, guys, you can find me at Stacy_Perez 83 on X, on Twitter, whatever it is that you call it. I am out there looking for drafts for us to do. Gator, it has been a minute since we did a Best Ball Mania. I have gotten that on the calendar. Maybe a sprint might be fun to do. If we can get, enough people ready to go and want to draft that with us next week.
We definitely need to do a sprint. That is playoffs only, correct?
Exactly. It's playoffs only. It's the $50 entry. So those of you that are feeling a little bit flush that week, come on in and join us.
You know what? That's what we'll do. We will get people to DM us.
Yes.
You can DM either Stacy, myself, or Club Fantasy account, Club Fantasy FFL over there on Twitter. It is Twitter, Stacy. It's not X.
I refuse to call it X. I am a Twitter girl. I will always be a Twitter girl. It is a tweet, not a post.
It's Twitter. It's a tweet. It will always be a retweet.
Oh,
and yes, so DM Stacy, DM myself, DM Club Fantasy FFL, and let us know next Tuesday what draft you want us to do. Is it a sprint? Is it a Best Ball Mania? Or is it something else that you want us to do, that you want to do? That's what we want to do. We want to be able to draft with you guys. We don't just want to draft for you or tell you what to do. We want to draft with you and see your drafts as well.
Yes.
7 shows a week. How am I supposed to get any work done?
Oh,
You're not, Vince. It's just
no.
straight up. It's not 7 shows a week anymore. It's 7 days a week.
Yeah.
There's shows on.
Football is life. Football is life, Vince.
Life. Oh.
Yeah. I'm rewatching Ted Lasso. Football is life.
28 teams reported today. 28.
Isn't that amazing? It's now, Gator, the time has come for all of the training camp footage to reinforce all of your biases either for or against players. It's here.
It's yip yap. It's yip yap season for the next. Hey, we're 9 days away from a Hall of Fame game.
Can you even? It's here. It's coming. Football is imminent. I love it. I can't wait.
We back. We back. Stacy, I had an absolute joy doing this or going through this draft with you. It was absolute fun. I really want to hear from the people who they enjoy or which draft they enjoyed the most. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. Tell me which ones you didn't like either. If that was Stacy's draft, let us know. Please.
No, Gator. If you didn't like my draft, I don't want to hear from you. So keep that opinion. I'm completely uninterested in that opinion, as David Rose from Pittsburgh.
She won't see the comments. She won't see the comments. All right, guys. Until next time.